I'm Reverend Heather Shea. I'm the spiritual director here and CEO of the magnificent United Palace in Washington Heights, and we are thrilled and honored that you've joined us. It's going to be an extraordinary afternoon, and to get us started, I'm going to hand it over to Reverend Dr. Jose Roman, who is part of our clergy staff here and is the host for this series.
So good afternoon, everyone. How's everybody feeling? Welcome to Open Heart Conversations. This is a whole new series here at United Palace. Every month, the last Sunday of every month at 3 p.m., we're going to gather as community, both those of us here in the theater and everyone online. And what we're going to be doing in Open Heart is essentially exploring our heritage, our united collective human heritage of all the spiritual wisdom that are found in the great religious traditions in the world. We're going to do that in a remarkably different way. We're living at a time in the world when many of these religious and spiritual differences are being used as ways to divide us, but not here. In the Open Heart Conversations, we see these magnificent differences as ways, really, of exploring our common humanity and bridges to one another. And that's what we're going to do we're going to do every single month together. Does that make sense? Yes. And today, we're going to open up Open Heart Conversations with a magnificent exploration. An exploration of one of the world's oldest spiritual traditions, the Hindu faith. We're going to do this with a remarkable guest who comes to us all the way from India, Swami Shantatmananda. Swami Shantatmananda is a senior monk in the Ramakrishna Order. You'll be learning a lot more of that as we progress to today. But one of the ways in which we're going to explore these traditions will be also by exploring the magnificent spiritual arts that they have given birth to. And one of those arts here in the Hindu faith is the art of kirtan. Kirtan is essentially a way of musically praying, a way of musically opening up your heart, your mind, your body, and your soul to the divine. It is a way of making a gift of yourself to God, who has made a gift of you to the world. Does that make sense? And today we are incredibly honored to have a magnificent kirtan artist with us today, who's going to be sharing her gifts, her prayer, and her ministry with us. And so I hand you over to Ambika Chant and Terence.
Hi. So we're going to start with a chant to Durga, who is the goddess, one of the goddesses in the Hindu tradition. She is fierce and loving. And the mantra we're going to chant to her is Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. Will you say that with me? Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. So usually we do call and response. I'll sing a line, you'll sing it back. And it's really important that you sing back. Okay? Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. Your turn. Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. 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 Om Dum Durgaye Namaha.
Thank you. Why don't we thank Ambika and Terence? Welcome, Swamiji. Thank you. It is an honor to have you here at United Palace at Open Heart Conversation.
Yes.
And we should grab that. There is so much. You can just talk straight into it and not worry about anything at all. Okay.
It's on?
It's on already.
Hello.
Yeah, that's it. And Swamiji, we're going to start this at the very, very, very beginning. And that is that you have now been a monk for 40 years. You've handed your entire life. You entered the order at the age of 26, correct?
Yeah.
That is an extraordinary thing. And to me, I feel that faith, spirituality becomes real when it becomes real in the life of one individual person. And you're an extraordinary example of that. What inspired you to become a monk?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. Actually, from a young age, somehow the world did not interest me much in general. But of course, I was deeply fascinated by sports. I was an avid sports follower. I loved cricket, football, tennis, many sports. But otherwise, the normal things of the world did not have much of an attraction for me. So I grew up, I studied, and I got into a very good job. Then at that point of time, I was wondering, what is it in store for me in this life? Maybe I would become a CEO or something one day, from one post to another, one promotion to another. I simply thought that it was absolutely meaningless to spend life that way. So I didn't have any attraction for that. Then my journey in the organization has been very, very extremely self-fulfilling. But then initially when I started the journey, my one objective was to find a meaning for life in general. So I thought that if you don't have any kind of a personal goal of setting up a family or earning money or anything like that, then how do you spend your life? So then I come from a very religious family that way. So I was in contact with this organization even before I decided to become a monk. So I saw that, it was set up by Swami Vivekananda. And he was a great advocate of this idea of service. So that attracted me. Instead of trying to live a life for oneself, whether there's a better way of spending one's life by serving others. So that is what essentially brought me to this organization. Although in these 40 years, the journey has been very extraordinary and have really, the organization, the order, life in the order has taught me several things. But initially it was to lead a life of service. That's what attracted me and brought me to this organization.
And that service was very important to the founder,
Yeah.
Ramakrishna. Why?
Because actually it was Swami Vivekananda who gave a very big drift to this idea of service. One day, he was present in the room where Sri Ramakrishna was talking to other devotees in a place called Dakshineswar. There's a huge temple there. That's where Sri Ramakrishna spent a major part of his life. That day he was talking about 3 basic tenets of Vaishnava religion. So Vaishnava religion is part of Hindu sect.
Right.
It talks about 3 basic tenets. The first one is taste for the Lord's name. They believe in taking the name of the Lord through kirtans, through other japa, chantings, etc. So taste for the Lord's name is a very important tenet. And then service to the jivas or the souls. That, they used to say, not service actually, first is taste for the Lord's name, compassion to the jivas, showing compassion to the jivas. And the third, the jiva meaning souls.
Right.
And the third is seva or service to Vaishnavas, serving the Vaishnavas or believers of that school. So Sri Ramakrishna first he said, taste for the Lord's name. The moment he uttered the sentence, compassion to the jivas, he went into a state of trance. He always used to go to that transcendental state every now and then when he was deeply possessed by that kind of any spiritual idea. He was speechless for some time. When he came down from that state, he said, no, it's completely wrong. Why this idea of compassion? Who are you to show compassion to another? You are as insignificant as a worm. Can you show compassion? Compassion really means the idea of high and low. You are compassionate to somebody. You are superior in a position of strength. So you are showing compassion to someone who is weak or who is down and out. So he said, no, not compassion. Then he said, service of Shiva in Jiva, service of God in man. It is not compassion, but it is service of God in man. He used a expression called service of Shiva in Jiva. Shiva representing God and Jiva meaning soul. So service of God in man, many were present. That day, Narendranath Datta, as Swami Vivekananda was called in his pre-monastic life, he was also present. He said that today I have heard something new. Should God give me an opportunity, I will establish this idea before mankind. That is why, later on, he went to the West. He represented Hinduism in the World Parliament of Religions held in Chicago in 1893, where he gave a very historic address calling for the harmony of religions. He returned to India in 1897, and on the 1st of May, he set up the Ramakrishna Mission with twofold ideas, two objectives. One is spiritual evolution of the individual, and at the same time, welfare of the world. So service became an integral part of the organization's spiritual endeavor.
But what you just said is incredibly revolutionary, because service, as we understand it at times here in the West, is I'm going to help that person who's needy and in many ways less than me.
Yeah.
You're literally saying when you walk up to an orphan, you are serving God in that orphan.
Yeah. See, actually, Swami Vivekananda clearly writes in his works, please remember, the world is not in the least need of you. You serve for your own spiritual evolution or uplift. It's an extraordinary statement. You see, you remember that all that an individual can do is not even a drop in the ocean.
Right.
What does your service really amount to? There are so many Red Cross and this and that, so many institutions have been set up. Still, they don't even cover 1% of the world's needs. Maybe 0.001% of the world's needs. So, in terms of, really the amount or quantity or percentage, the service adds up to nothing. So that's why he says, the world does not really look to you. If you want to serve, you do it for your own spiritual evolution. So he clearly says, the giver is more blessed than the receiver. He says, if the whole world refuses to accept charity, whom would you go and serve, tell me? Because somebody is ready to receive, you are ready to serve. So he says, the receiver is more blessed than the giver is more blessed than the receiver. He's very clear about that.
Then what is the mindset of the giver? For example, if I start giving and I'm like, look how fabulous I am, look how fantastic I am.
Yeah, see, that's what, then it would not become a spiritual endeavor. That would, of course, that might produce some difference at the existential world, but at subjectively, in your own evolution, it would count for nothing. Because, ultimately the point is, why he says, see, ultimately the Hindu view of life is spiritual evolution of the highest order, where you really reach the pinnacle. For that, you need a lot of internal cleansing or purification. Right. So service is one form of that, whereby you constantly serve, thinking about the welfare of the other, thinking that the other person is a representative of God. That way, when you serve that way, your ego, your impurities, your sense of high, your sense of privilege, that you are more privileged than the other, all that would slowly, that is how you get rid of your ego, your impurities. So that way it's a spiritual endeavor.
So it's a yoga.
Yeah.
Karma yoga.
Karma yoga.
What other yogas are there?
Yeah, he talks about 4 yogas. Jnana yoga, or the path of reasoning or inquiry. Bhakti yoga, or the path of emotion or worship. And then Raja yoga, or the yoga of meditation, complete contemplation. And then Karma yoga, or the yoga of service. Why he said this was, essentially he says, human beings are of essentially these 4 character types. Either you are very rational and of the nature of an inquirer, you are always reasoning, that's one type. Those who are soft and emotional, for the first type it's a Jnana yoga, or the path of inquiry, or the reasoning, or the rational inquiries. Second is Bhakti yoga, is for those who are very soft and emotional, the path of devotion. And then Raja yoga is for those who are psychic, who believe in deep contemplation. They may not even accept any personal God or any kind of that kind of a deity or anything, but purely, they can contemplate, and then, by the process of eliminating all the tendencies of the vrittis, of the thoughts, they can also reach. And then finally, the path of Karma yoga for those who are action-oriented, who are extremely busy. For such people, he advocated. So essentially he says, it has got nothing to do with any religion, for any person in any religion can, because essentially human beings, they fall under one or the other category.
So we've actually touched on 2 major topics in the Hindu faith. One is the idea that God manifests as us, that God is within us, that is our true face. The other is the idea, please correct me if I'm wrong, that one way of beginning to unite with God is through selfless service to others.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah. Selfless service to others, because, when you constantly think of the other person as a representation of God, so internally also you start evolving. It cannot be that the other person is God and myself a devil. It doesn't happen. So you also slowly, as you evolve, as you keep on serving, then you become purer and purer. And one day you also realize you're also divine. And that is how you find out your own roots or your own inner reality is discovered that way. So service is a clear path of spiritual evolution.
Who is Ramakrishna?
Ramakrishna was the mentor or guru of Swami Vivekananda. He was a 19th century mystic, born in rural Bengal, it's one of the states of India. And he was from a very orthodox Hindu family, but he was absolutely, unlettered in the sense that he didn't go to a formal school at all. Because even when they thought of putting him to a school, he asked, what is the purpose of this education? Then itself he realized that it's only to win bread and butter. He said, I don't want such an education. So he refused to go to school. But if you read his works, you would understand that he was a person endowed with extraordinary wisdom. So he was mainly, there is an idea that he spent much of his time, entire his life, doing spiritual practices or sadhana. And then he slowly realized through intense spiritual practices the different aspects of Hinduism. All were experienced by him. And not only that, he went on to practice the disciplines of other faiths like Christianity, Islam. And he again realized that the same results, same goals are reached through all these paths. So he came out with the statement, as many faiths, so many paths. So he was the first person to clearly propound this idea of harmony of religions. He said, supposing there is a water reservoir, people draw water from it. Some people call it water, some people call it aqua, some people call it pani, some people call it jal. But the substance is same. He said that ultimately when you reach the pinnacle, when you reach the spiritual goal of life, whatever be your path, if you are a true seeker, you would reach the same goal. That was his idea based on his own experience. Many people of the young Bengal at that time, they were attracted to him, and one of whom was Swami Vivekananda, who became his chief proponent of his ideas and his wisdom.
That's also incredibly revolutionary, especially in our time, when we see a rise in fundamentalism in practically every religion and every place in the world. This is a quote that I have from Ramakrishna, and I want you to comment on it.
Yeah.
One can ascend to the top of a house by means of a ladder or a bamboo or a staircase or a rope. So too diverse are the ways of approaching God, and each religion in the world shows one of the ways. A truly religious man should think that other religions are also so many paths leading to the truth. One should always maintain an attitude of respect towards other religions. Now that's revolutionary in the modern world. Comment on it.
Actually, this is a very wonderful approach, If this one statement, if followed, probably there won't be any religious disharmony at all in this world. Because, you see, essentially, one of the main reasons for his attitude this way was, he clearly said that religion is very serious business. Religion is realization. Religion is experience. It's not mere talk, doctrine, dogma, philosophy, theology, much beyond that. He said that unless you experience religion, it counts for nothing. If that is the approach to religion, a person who is seriously religious would practice. He would have no time even to look at other religions or criticize them. He would see, as a true inquirer, he would have a sense of awe or respect. I really don't know. I have hardly time to even find out my own way. Whatever I believe or whatever I profess, let me explore. Somebody else might be exploring some other path. What right have I to criticize or speak ill of that? That's a very narrow view. That's a view which is not based on truth, which is not based on reasoning, which is not based on logic. It's only based on dogmatism and a communal feeling and feeling of very narrowness, is it not? Really, honestly, even, mind you, let anyone be the follower of any religion. For example, someone is a follower of Christianity. Christianity is so vast. All our life, you would hardly get even a glimpse of that truth that is enshrined in that great religion. That be so, where's the time for you to say that somebody else is wrong? You hardly know anything about your own religion, and you go about saying others are wrong. How ridiculous it is. That's why he said, have the highest respect for other religion, because he says, of course that is, we also talked about it this noon. You see, if you all believe that, we are all creations of God, then all religions are all creations of God only. You name that God in any way, you name it one way, someone named it someone else. Let us forget all the names. Essentially, we all talk about a supreme power, an omniscient, omnipotent, all-pervasive, extraordinary power, and each one calling it God in his or her own way. So that be so, wherever you see diversity, it is all his creation only. God wants to have fun that way. Why do you want to say that, no, let me correct it? You have not been entrusted with the duty by God. Is it not? God wants, if it is to be corrected, He would correct it. So that's why He says, if you are a serious seeker or a practitioner of religion, you would hardly have time to look this way or that way. You will be busy practicing your own religion, because even in one lifetime, if you really talk about the great Christian mystics, the extraordinary experiences they talk about, in one lifetime, we can hardly measure or get across even 1,000th of whatever has been stated in those great works. So that be so, you're always an explorer, you're an inquirer. You have tremendous curiosity to know about the truths. See, actually, he gives a beautiful example. An ant went to a sugar hill. With great difficulty, it picked up one grain. And when going, it says, next time I'll come and pull that whole sugar mountain. It's like that. See, you are so tiny, you have hardly tasted even a grain of your own religion. You say that in one gamut, I will pull all the religions together and bring it my way. It's as ridiculous as that.
Swamiji, then, let's say someone is a Muslim. Sitting in this audience, maybe people who are Muslim, people that are Christian, people that are Jews, people that are Buddhists. And they're sincere. And they come to you and they say, how then can I, within the context of my faith, walking my path, how do I achieve realization? What is it that I can bring? What is it that I can do within my path that would allow me to achieve the level of consciousness that's my birthright?
Yeah. That's what in every religion there are clear lines that are drawn. There are a set of people who have been great practitioners themselves, and there are a lot of other theologians, and then they bring about a lot of theories and dogmas and so on. So if you're a serious practitioner, you take to that branch of your own religion where the path is clearly laid out. See, because we can only, in fact, there's a great saying in the Gita which says that Yadyat acharati shrishtaha tattayeva itaro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokas tadanu vartate. I'm not trying to bamboozle you with a Sanskrit quote. This essentially means that whatever the great people have shown by way of example for their life, ordinary people follow it. Supposing you like a mystic tradition of Christianity, you have to follow that path. Find out who are those people who are practicing it today. Join that group. Spend time. Devote your life. Then that was Ramakrishna says very beautifully. See, even if you stumble, if you struggle, if you're a sincere seeker, if you're a Christian, Christ will show you the way. Initially you may struggle, but if you are very sincere, in a mysterious way, the doors will be open to you. What Sri Ramakrishna says is, what you need is real sincerity of heart and the intensity of spiritual practice to taste the highest bliss or joy of a spiritual experience. If you do that, even if you struggle, you might not see the clear path or the opening even at the beginning, but what you need is sincerity combined with intensity, the deep desire. What Sri Ramakrishna puts it as vyakulata, longing. If you have that longing for God or a spiritual experience, certainly you would make it that way. And and also the openness to draw from any tradition. See, I am deeply rooted in Christianity, but wherever there is a help coming, I leverage that. Supposing you read in Ramakrishna something that helps you to deepen your own faith in Christianity, why not take it? That is how you would, maybe suddenly you will get a hint from there, you use that, and then you go forward in your own approach.
What are your practices as you've lived your life and you have walked this path? What are the practices that you do?
See, ours, it's a very traditional practice, particularly in the Ramakrishna monastery or order, because Ramakrishna himself was an extraordinary combination of all the 4 yogas. Essentially, we also try to practice all the 4 yogas. As you said, service is an integral part of our sadhana. Meditation, the Raj Yoga, is part of our spiritual discipline. We are given spiritual initiation into these practices, how to practice dhyana. Then prayer and worship, devotion is part of our tradition. And then jnana, inquiry, vichara, discrimination is also part of our discipline. So you combine all that to the extent possible, the more and more you intensify your spiritual struggle, you progress.
I have a good friend who I spoke to. He lives in Japan. He may be watching us actually right now online. And Hiroshi said to me, if you're going to speak to him, ask him about not only his practices, but ask him if he's ever had a spiritual awakening. Because my friend has been meditating, and he sort of like meditates, and he's sort of waiting for some kind of an experience that he's never actually had.
Yeah. See, there is a great danger in this kind of an expectation. See, spiritual awakening is not that suddenly you see some light somewhere or hear sound, or you start, floating in the air, or then you suddenly, it's not that. See, it comes in various forms. For some people they might see some forms, maybe see some light also. Much more than that, the spiritual awakening within you, it should strengthen you, it should bring deep conviction in the path that you are following. This is the first awakening. See, many years you spend doubting whether I am walking the right path. The first spiritual awakening is the certainty that I am walking the right path. If he has got it, you tell him, your friend, that he has had a spiritual awakening. And then as you go along, the ability to intensify your practices, the joy of spiritual striving, that is a great milestone. That is a sign of spiritual awakening. See, how many hours can we practice? There are people who practice 10 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours. Why? Just because they find tremendous joy in that. So joy in spiritual practices is yet another awakening. Of course, there are, you cannot describe the ultimate. There are any number of stages. People can be deeply absorbed for hours, completely forgetting the idea they are the body. It's possible. They will not be conditioned by space or time or anything like that. It's possible. And they say, as you go deeper and deeper and higher states of transcendental or superconscious experiences are possible. But we do not know. But spiritual laws are such, there's nothing exactly like, in a very perfect way, like cause and effect. I did 12 hours, I might guess this. No. You may do for 200 hours and you might not go that far, and someone might do 2 hours and go. Because, again we believe that life is a continuous journey. In the past life you might have done so much, so you're just continuing from there. So it's very difficult to say. That's how it's very clearly seen that. So as long as he finds delight in this sadhana, his tendency is on the right track. One day or other, whatever enlightenment is needed would certainly come.
It's interesting. My own spiritual path is Buddhism, and engaged Buddhism in particular. And I once had a teacher who once said to me, the greatest enlightenment is to love to serve others.
Yeah.
Which is so much the living reality
see, the point
of your
is, that love for others, that would really be true only when you see the divine aspect in somebody. Otherwise, people love either. Husband loves wife, wife loves husband, and there are boyfriends and girlfriends and people going about and all that. You call all this as love. These are all very, of course, maybe in Hinduism, whatever they say is, everything is sacred. Even this is also maybe an infinitesimally small part of that love of God. But then, when you serve others, if you truly love them, unless you find a different dimension of that personality, that love cannot be of that intensity or depth. So that shows that you are able to see more and more the divinity in the other person whom you serve, and that's how you progress there also.
Sweet teacher, I could easily sit here and talk and ask you like 1,000 more questions, but we have a lot of brothers and sisters sitting in this audience, and I want to give them the opportunity to do the same. And so, my dear brothers and sisters, we now have a magnificent teacher in front of us, and the floor is open to you. Do you have any questions? Don't be shy now. Don't be shy. Right here. Let's wait, please.
Excuse me, and your name?
I'm sorry,
Stand.
Alfie.
Hi, Alfie.
Hi. I just wanted to know, why do you think, if there is such thing as reincarnation, and you touched a little bit on that earlier, why we forget? Why we forget?
Why we forget?
Why, if there is such a thing as reincarnation, let's say there is, why when we come back, we seem to forget? You touched on that earlier.
Forget past lives.
Forget your past lives.
If you are reincarnated, why do we forget a past life? What?
Yeah, see, that is, please sit down. That is in the very scheme of things. So do you remember what all you did when you were 5 years old? No? Definitely not. So even in this life, if it is so, how would you remember what happened several births ago? See, even in a normal way, the brain cells, they die out, new cells come. You definitely, even your normal memory has a span. So that way we forget. So it's clear forgetfulness. But there are people through intense, extraordinary sadhana have even accessed their past lives. Because see, the spiritual realm itself belongs to the subtle. From the more and more you go from the gross to subtle, you develop all this. The powers to recognize your past, reading others' mind. There are so many, huge unexplored areas there. These are all not, any black magic or spooky or anything like that. These are all clearly scientific. So the idea is the more and more you go subtle, you would. More and more than that, it may not even be necessary. See, supposing, most important is to recognize where I am, to live in the present. I am here, I am this. I find I am limited by this, conditioned by this. I must overcome them. That's the spiritual resolution you need to go ahead. What happened, how I was born, what I had in the past, no need. I feel that I am constrained by these. By sadhana, by spiritual striving, I'll overcome them. And that's how you go ahead in spiritual life.
Swamiji, you just said something which is really interesting, and it's related very much to this wonderful question, which is, this is something that really was an insight, first really in the Hindu faith, and has now become slowly an insight in Western science, which is that there are different levels of consciousness, and that many of us live at a rather gross level. When we enter the most subtle levels, like the Buddha did underneath the Bodhi tree, all of the past becomes a reality. You literally see it all. Do you?
Possibly. Mm-hmm. But essentially, we don't really emphasize on finding out the past or what really was and all that. See, those things might come. Actually, when you go deeper and deeper into spiritual striving, you may be able to access many other things. But our clear idea is not to look at all that. Only concentrate on the present. Where am I? How my mind is becoming purer and purer. How am I going from the gross to the subtle? How am I able to get into the idea, overcome the idea, I am the body or I am the mind? These are the two basic limiting things. We are conditioned essentially by our body and our mind. So if you work your way and go ahead, then you find that all those things fall by the wayside. Supposing you are a multi-millionaire or billionaire in the past. This life you are begging for food. Does it really mean anything to know that you are a billionaire or a multimillionaire in the past. It makes no sense. So recognize the present. Where am I? Where am I stuck? How am I going forward? That's the real essence. Incidentally, many things might come. When you become subtle, when you are really awakened, you may be able to access so many things, but you won't really even look at them.
Any other questions? Right. Oh, this young man.
Yeah,
Let's-
young man
Give me one
first.
second for the
Coming
mic.
around. Excuse me.
Small boy, and then we'll go to the gentleman.
So,
What's your name, by the way?
Jaden,
Jaden, welcome.
what is the meaning of monks shaving their heads?
Huh? Why monks?
Why do monks shave?
Shave their head. Actually, the original idea of a monk in India or in Hinduism is, by your very presence, by your very appearance, you give a signal that you have nothing to do with the world. Make yourself least attractive in terms of body, so that people don't approach you with any other thought. See, we were not supposed to wear such fine clothes. They used to wear, the color was the orange because it was not this kind of a fine artificial color. It was you have to pick up the clothes discarded by others. They would get mingled with mud. In those days there was not so much of concrete or that kind of roads or things like that. There was all muddy roads. And the discarded roads, they would lie in mud, get that mud color. Orange was closest to that. So you have to pick up that kind of clothes to just cover your body. Not finely, with the nice hair oil and cream and that kind of a hairdo. Just shave it so that, it doesn't become a bother. People also used to have long jata and huge hair and also beard and all that. Either way, spend minimum on all that. Otherwise, maintaining the hair, etc. might be a... So, it is symbol that, and also you are getting rid of as much of bondages as possible. So, any kind of a bondage was a taboo. And the dress, in your approach and everything, that's why, they would only take food like this way. What your hands can hold. You go for what's called bhiksha, begging for alms, and they won't even have any vessel, just what their hands could hold, and take water that way. No possession. That was the idea, originally. Because we're also becoming slightly modern these days. But anyway, the idea is very much there even now.
Gentleman back here, I think, had a question. Okay, but 1 second while the mic. Where's the mic? And it's coming to you. Oh no, we want you online as well, my dear brother.
Really, all over the world.
That's right.
I assume, rather I presume you to be a Brahmin, because I heard you say you come from a kind of religion-intensive family. The thing I would ask you, what exactly is your organization doing to improve the plight of the Dalits? Dalits are the downtrodden, the untouchables within quote unquote, things like that. I think I don't want to take any more time. Thank you.
Thank you.
See, the point is, the order does not make any distinction between castes. We have people from all backgrounds, from Brahmins and Kshatriyas and Shudras and Dalits. All are treated exactly the same way as far as monastic vows, etc. are concerned. Everyone is ordained. There's no distinction. When taking food or anywhere, nothing is practiced. Thousands of devotees attend our celebrations, functions, sometimes 50,000, 60,000 people. All are treated alike and fed together, no distinctions made. So in practice, actually we have done quite a lot to do away with all that. And then as far as these works are concerned, many of our institutions are located in such areas where extremely underprivileged and impoverished people stay. So we work quite a lot amongst them. Moreover, in terms of natural calamities, disasters, etc., we rush to those areas, and where most of the beneficiaries are largely poor people from such backgrounds. So in our own humble way, in theory and practice, we really have done whatever is possible for us to do away with all that.
More questions?
Yeah.
The young man right here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Hello, my name is Errol. So I'm just starting to identify more as an interfaith, interspiritual person, and I was wondering if you could impart any knowledge, any wisdom on the simplest way we can cultivate peace within ourselves.
Simplest way.
How to cultivate inner peace.
Yeah. You see, simplest way to cultivate inner peace is, it's always good to begin somewhere, Any faith, whatever that appeals to you, any religion, any faith, start with some of the basics like, start in a small way, a kind of self-inquiry. What is the purpose of life? Why am I here? Where am I going? How to improve myself so that, I'm able to find answers for all that. At the same time, you practice some simple disciplines like preliminary meditations, etc., where you try to understand the flow of your own thoughts, where they are going. Slowly you'll find that, these things should become a part and parcel of your system, what they call in Hinduism as samskaras, the tendencies. If you practice religiously over a period of time, that will slowly become a kind of your second nature. And that is how you will slowly start exploring. Point is, unless we attempt anything very seriously for a certain period, it's not possible to feel any, even in the least way, peace or that kind of a tranquility.
Thank you. The young man right here. Reverend. Thank you, Reverend Telly, by the way, for doing this service.
Hello, my name is Adrian. Thank you, Swami, for sharing your wisdom with us. I have a question. I resonate with what you shared about if you are devoted to your religion totally, you don't have time to look this way or that way. My question is for I think many people in this room, we're working people, lay people, right? But if you are called and have a practice, even if you go to church or temple once a week, but you desire more to build a robust practice, and yet you are bound to your daily life of the requirements of this material world, how do you follow that compulsion?
See, the point is, each person, each one of us has to really work out what's our priority in life. So, it's simple mathematics, simple science. Unless you are ready to invest in it, you will not get that kind of results. So, you have to organize yourself. Yes, these are my priorities. Struggle, slowly will come. But then, true inner peace, happiness, etc. are just not possible unless you are ready to devote your time for that kind of an intense practice or sadhana, as they call it. See, it's not possible. You see the religious history of the world. All those great souls, how much they have done. So unless you are ready to struggle that way, it's not possible to make great strides. But then one can make a beginning, slowly organize yourself, most importantly, set up a discipline for yourself. Come what may, this much time I would devote. See, whatever might be our pursuits, there is no one in this world who cannot take out at least 2 hours of time every day. Morning 1 hour and evening 1 hour. See, you must understand, it's our dire necessity. It's something for my survival. If you feel that way, definitely you will devote time. And even if you devote 2 hours a day, 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour in the night, within a couple of years, you will find that you are definitely getting more and more organized and becoming a better person.
By the way, I really want to point out, isn't it amazing the wonderful questions from young people in the room today? Thank you for coming, by the way, and thank you to your parents for bringing you here, because what they're building is a much better world by having young men and women in this room. It's extraordinary that you're here, and your questions have been awesome. Thank you. Any more young people or older people, any people? Any other questions in the room from anyone? The young lady right here. No. The Reverend's coming right to you.
Hi, I wanted to thank you first of all for being here. It's great, and I really appreciate being able to hear you. And I appreciated what you said in answer to the question about, why don't we remember the past lives? Because this idea of accumulation, and I guess what I'm thinking of two things. First, for my own personal self, when I'm studying spiritual stuff or listening to spiritual teachers, certain things I take in as new, and other things I hear and it's like I'm being reminded. Like I knew it and I forgot, right? And I can actually feel like I knew that already. And then the other experience of it is more from watching usually children. So I have a very big family and a lot of, nieces, nephews, grandchildren, and everything at this point, and you can see that certain of these beings have been here. I mean, you can just tell by the way they interact with you, by the way they touch your face. They'll go over. I had a 4-year-old nephew who used to go over and sit with whoever was alone. It wasn't one of those kids that I want my mommy and I'm not going to eat. So that person maybe just got here. This is my thinking of it, right? So, but other people are looking to be protected, or they want their toy, or they want to go where they want to go. And then I would have this one nephew who's somebody's sitting alone and he'd go sit with them, and just this idea of just a feeling or a sense of myself in certain situations and of other people and the way they act and respond. And when I'm part of One Spirit with Reverend Jose, and sometimes we see new people coming in and you see the different way they connect with each other, and you can just feel like they've been around before or maybe knew each other before. I don't know. You could just get that sense. So, and it was beautiful the way you said it, because I never really put those things together. So I want to thank you for that. Thanks.
Questions, comments? Right here. Reverend Tilly. The mic is right here, Reverend Tilly. The mic is very important because it allows the folks online to hear you. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Swamiji, for sharing your wisdom with us today. My name is Deborah, and my question is, for those of us who have a meditation practice, do you have any suggestions or guidance or tips that might help us to go deeper?
Yeah. You see, first of all, it's very necessary to follow a particular tradition. People who start meditating just by themselves probably don't end up anywhere. You need a specific guidance for meditation, certainly. So I'm sure you're following some particular tradition or method. But in a very general way, I can give you one suggestion that might help you and many others here. Because meditation essentially is, leaving apart whatever might be the particular type of meditation that you might be doing, essentially it has to do with the mind. Isn't it? Okay? So meditation means complete absolute control of the mind. In one of the greatest treatises on yoga, which was by a great rishi called Patanjali. Patanjali's yoga, it begins with the aphorism which says yoga is, what is yoga? It defines yoga. Chitta vritti nirodha is yoga. That is quelling of the vrittis, the tendencies, thoughts arise in your mind. Complete cessation of that is called yoga, or that is meditation of the highest order. Now, our problem of 99.99% of the mankind when we sit for meditation is the mind becomes 1,000 times more powerful and active than we are engaged in any work. Meditation produces more restlessness than when we are working. Because while working, you concentrate on one thing, so it's more concentrated, whereas in meditation, it wanders all over the world. So one practice you might try, and of course you must wait at least for 6 to 8 months for some result. Before you begin your formal meditation according to any tradition, first of all, meditate at a time when it is most congenial to you in terms of body and mind. Early hours of the morning, most preferably, or maybe before you go to bed. Best is when you are fresh, you get up in the morning, wash, and have a place specifically for that, so that sitting in that place constantly brings in your mind the idea of meditation and quietude. So select a place, reserve it for that. See that that place is not misused for other useless activity. And then to create an ambience, you can use a very light incense stick or a small lamp burning. These are all symbols which can bring about a certain amount of quietness of the mind. Then you sit on a seat which is meant for that. Most preferably, best is to sit on the floor, or even if you sit on a chair, don't recline or things like that. You must sit erect. That's very important. And then, for a few minutes, at least about 5 to 10 minutes, close your eyes. Convert yourself into a witness or a sakshi. You become a witness and try to observe your own mind where all it wanders. Don't try to control it. The worst thing we do is trying to control the mind, and it goes berserk in 1,000 directions. Don't try to control it. Allow the mind to wander. Keep quiet. Try to make yourself an observer, a sakshi or a witness. And you see that, you will find that over a period of time, maybe 6 to 8 months or 1 year, the moment you start doing it, initially the mind would run around. It will slowly quieten down. Then only your actual meditation you can begin. So this is a preliminary exercise which, irrespective of your faith, you can adapt this. This might definitely help you.
Swamiji, so maybe that's a really good segue into maybe for the next 5 minutes you can lead us into a little bit of a quiet meditation. Is that okay?
It will require much more time.
It will.
At least
you see, us Americans, it's fast
than,
food and all that kind of stuff.
Less than 20 minutes or so, it's very difficult to bring. Moreover, they're all from different wavelengths, vibrations, to bring them to a. But this is one thing you can try when you go back every day. Within 8 to 10 months, you'll definitely feel a difference. If you do it very religiously, probably the same time every day for a period, you'll find that the mind definitely becoming quieter. Because, ultimately, the goal of meditation is to really get hold of yourself, to know who you are in a true essence. That is meditation. Meditation is not any action or a ritual or doing or not doing. Meditation is being, is a state of awareness, the highest state of awareness where you realize who you are in essence. That's a tall order. So it's not possible to describe it in words, but this practice would definitely help you to some extent to go forward in that.
Any more questions? Okay, right here.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth. So I have a question, and that is, how do you said on a couple of occasions that you thought everything you did was sacred, everything we do is sacred. How do you live a life where you recognize that everything you do is sacred when we're living in a time where nothing is sacred anymore?
Yeah, you see, the point is, whatever you see in this world, whatever you see in this world, whatever is happening or anything that is taking place, when you try to understand them in a particular way, in a particular language, in a particular context, they become not so sacred. But anything, you tell me any incident, any happening, anywhere, I will tell you how you can make it a secret. Because you find that however much you might try, however you might put in an effort, things often, more often than not, they don't go the way you want them to happen. So ultimately, slowly if you accept an idea, there is a higher power or a destiny guiding all of us, you will find a lot more meaning in what is happening around. Otherwise, so for example, we see a person who is absolutely innocent, who's never done anything wrong. Suddenly overnight, some vehicle comes and runs over and kills him. Now how do you explain this? It's gross injustice, you might say. In broad daylight, someone takes a gun and shoots somebody to death. How do you answer all that? There are thousands of questions every day for which we don't have an answer. But if you learn to accept the higher power, then slowly you will not only find a meaning, and you will find that these are all not the matters for which we should lose sleep over. See, our relationships, whatever we hold as very sacred, dear, our possessions and everything, all that are absolutely, they have no foundations at all. Anything can crumble any time. So when you understand life itself in a larger dimension, then you find that yes, something happened, something were to happen, there were relationships, they were good, they were bad, everything. Ultimately, then you start focusing on oneself. How do I find an answer to this? How do I find answer to this tragedy? How do I find answer even to this great happening of joy or a celebration? Wealth, money, jackpot, lotteries, millions, billions, becoming pauper, death, deprivation, suffering. Millions of things are happening. So then you find out slowly, the only way is to turn the gaze inwards. As long as you keep looking at the objective world, you are not going to find an answer. Some people find it more gruesome, more difficult to believe, more tragic, more difficult, more that kind of a situation. Some might be inattentive. You might not even, rather I would say that people who are placed in circumstances have a greater chance to go inward because they have received a shock or a blow. Till you learn to do that, we can never find an answer to life's riddles or problems. So then you understand that the objective world is going in its own way. We can't change it, we can't correct it. Things will happen, good things will happen, bad things will happen, tragedies will happen, death will happen, births will happen, money will come, money would go, jobs would come, jobs would go. Doesn't matter. Then you understand, by a very quirk of fate we are here in this place called world. What can I do so that I realize my own true purpose, my own goal, my own real identity? Then you realize, once you do that, then you realize that freedom. Then you understand, what are these relationships? What are these? What is that to grieve about? What is that to be so happy about? They're all nothing. They all happen at a very superficial, surface level, which count for nothing. You see, for example, why I'm saying, today in your house, your neighbor, is a very brilliant young man, great career, hardly 21 or 22. Suddenly he dies of a heart attack. The whole family is completely shattered. So you also go, you express, you also weep, you cry with them. They are very good neighbors. You come back, after half an hour, you dress up, go for the wedding of another dear friend of yours. You are not hypocritical. You have participated in that. But then you know that it's not yours beyond a point. However much you may identify with that family, you know that it is not your tragedy. You know you have to sympathize with them, you have to participate with them, but you know that you have also to attend the wedding of some other dear friend of yours. But in your own house, even if a 70-year-old person dies, all of you might have been really wishing for his death because he was creating so much of a problem, but suddenly you start weeping inconsolably. Oh, gone. Why? Because the identification that this person is mine. So, if you see the incidents without identification, one is a tragic death of a 21-year-old, blooming, extremely promising youngster. Other is a death of a ripe old person, 70 years, good time to go happily. But this is producing more sorrow in you than this. Why? Just your identification. So if you understand life in its proper context, you will not grieve. You will not grieve. There's a very beautiful story in Sri Ramakrishna. He was very fond of parables. He would teach through parables beautifully. There was a farmer. He was working in his field. So his wife sent the message. Their only son had died all of a sudden. So this farmer went home, and the wife was crying and weeping and wailing. And this man was sitting stoically like a stone. And the wife became so angry. What? You can't even shed tears? Your only son has died? Oh, I was just wondering for which son I should weep. The wife was shocked. You have only one son? What do you mean? You have another relationship or what? Then, he said that, last night I had a dream. I was a king. I was ruling a huge kingdom. And I was the father of 7 princes. They were all Rajkumars, princes, 7 of them, and such beauty, grandeur, such palatial, royal style, and everything was going on. Wonderfully, I was ruling. And suddenly my dream broke, and everything was gone. Now I am wondering whether I should weep for those 7 sons or for this one son. If you think of it, your waking life is as unreal as your dream. See, these are all great truths, extremely difficult to grasp and put into practice. So somewhere you begin the journey, and slowly, definitely, if you make a sincere effort, you will find answers to all that slowly. Once you understand that, nothing would touch you. You know that the way the life is made like that, the world is constructed like that. It's meant to be a place of chaos. If you expect orderliness in a chaos and a disorderliness, it is foolishness. So you understand, and just you laugh over, okay, fine, good. come, is gone, gone. Doesn't matter. Because then ultimately, you completely narrow it down to your own spiritual evolution. You know that the only way to get over true sorrow, suffering, everything is to find your own moorings, your own deep spiritual inner nature. And once you do that, nothing would ever touch you. That's it.
Thank you, sweet teacher. As our kirtan artists begin to set up again, I do really want to thank you. It's an extraordinary thing. You have been with us the entire afternoon. You came to the United Palaces service at 12 noon and then again came here at 3 o'clock and really led us into the heart, not merely of the Hindu faith, into the heart of reality, because it really is reality that we are all truly a manifestation of the divine, and we need to come into life and serve from that perspective. It's been an absolute honor and a privilege to have been able to explore this magnificent tradition with you, your order, and above all, your heart. Thank you so much, sweet teacher. Now, what this means, by the way, is that you and your community are now part of the family here at United Palace. You realize that. Every time you're in the States, you have to come here. And anything we can do to be of service to you, we are your brothers and your sisters. You can call on us. Truly. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will now be led through another beautiful song in the kirtan tradition by Ambika and Terence.
Chant was a request from Reverend Jose. And this is known as the Maha Mantra, the big mantra. Also, it's probably a lot of you have heard of it. So it's Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So let's just say it together like we did before. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. The repetition of the name that Swamiji so lovely he talked about, the repetition of the divine name. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now your turn. Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna.
sisters, Ambika, Chant, and Terence. Thank you, thank you. And Swami, sweet brother, thank you. And thank you all for making community with us today. We will not be meeting in June. Open Heart Conversations is deeply aware that June is LGBT Pride Month. So we will be meeting again on July 1st, to explore the intricacies and the mysteries of interspirituality and interfaith life. Thank you so very, very much, and may you all have a magnificent weekend.